I have always loved kids. You know, growing up and in college, you know, you think, okay, I'm going to graduate college and within a couple of years I'll get married, I'll buy a house, I'll have kids, like the whole like American dream sort of societal norm. I think somewhere in me I always knew maybe I would go in a bit of a different direction than others, because I remember in college when I graduated, they had a program, I'm sure most schools have this, where you could buy a brick to put out in this courtyard and get it engraved with whatever you wanted, right? Like a quote or a phrase or whatever. And for whatever reason, I had put on mine, it was a line from a Dixie Chicks song. I think the song is called Taking the Long Way, but it was something along the lines of like, you can still find me taking the long way around. I've sort of jumped all over the place, you know, physically moving around before getting here. And then Matthew and I have just taken our time with each stage of our relationship. It is the piece of advice that I give a lot of my girlfriends. You know, take each phase, each chapter of your life and enjoy it, because once you move on to the next chapter, you don't get it back. You know, we dated for 5 years before we got engaged, and then we were engaged for almost 2.5 years, and then we've been married for just now 4 years. More and more women are having babies at older ages. I'm 37, so I'm advanced maternal age. I think that there's a great misconception that it's just so easy and it'll happen. And when you're several months into trying to have a baby and it hasn't happened yet, the worst thing that someone can tell you is to relax. Because of my age, we decided, let's go see a fertility specialist. And she had, you know, done a initial ultrasound and said, you know, step 1, everything looks good. And the way that Matthew tells the story is that when she said that, he claims that I just sort of, you know, relaxed. And literally within a few days, we got pregnant. We told people pretty early on, like within a couple weeks of finding out, but it is still very volatile that first trimester. So even once we were pregnant, there was a constant worry. Every negative scenario enters your brain at some point. I mean, look, there are not a lot of opportunities in our lives where we can go a little big. It's probably a little bit different than your average baby shower, but I mean, why not? If you can do it, why not just be extra? My mom always described it as every friend's a bubble, you're all floating. Some of them stick around, some of them pop, some of them just float away. But there are some that stay. Our friendship has ebbed and flowed in terms of how closely we've stayed in contact, but the fact that they are literally hopping on planes to come for a baby shower in the middle of a freaking pandemic is so touching and special, and how lucky am I? And so it's this sort of like really beautiful, I don't know, like patchwork quilt of all of these women that are now like coming together to celebrate me moving into a new chapter, a really big chapter in life, and becoming a mom to a girl. I wanted to have a dinner where the focus was a little bit more just on, I guess, female friendships. I am a big believer in love languages, and my dominant love language is gifts. You know, I really wanted to leave no doubt in anyone's mind how grateful I am for them being a part of this weekend. Okay, hi guys. So I'm gonna try to hold it together here. Although I am absolutely what my 16-year-old self would have rolled her eyes at and called an old mom, I think Berkeley's life is going to be that much better because we waited, we experienced life before we decided to bring her into our world. And speaking of Berkeley, one of the biggest lessons that we plan to teach her is the importance of self-concept. So how she speaks to herself, what her thoughts are about herself, what the talk track in her mind sounds like. You know, as women, we are so quick to pick ourselves apart. It can be very difficult to see yourself in a positive light or in you know, a light that's not judgmental. So why not take a few minutes for each person and tell them, here's how I see you. This is a quality or a trait or a characteristic that I admire, and I can only hope that my daughter will have a piece of that. And I want you, every time that you open that mirror or look in a mirror and you're feeling and hearing all that self-doubt, remember this. Think back to that card, think back to that weekend, and remember that you are not the negative thing that you're telling yourself. You're this, and you're also so much more.
I want her to be a little strong woman. That's what I want for baby Bert. Look, I think there's gonna be curveballs left and right and fastballs that are gonna hit us in the face, and it's gonna really suck. And like, that's just part of being a human. But I think overall, like, how I'm feeling is just ready, excited. You know, I think there's been everybody goes through phases in life, and you know, we've been fortunate enough to be in a very Caitlin Matthew phase, you know, for the past 10 years, you know, and that's cool. You know, we've had a lot of fun.
I think it worked out really well that we waited as long as we did to have kids. And we both desperately wanted a girl. So we got our girl. Yeah.